Большое спасибо, Юлия Георгиевна. Ну, во-первых,
Well, thank you very much, Yulia, and I want to thank you once again for the invitation to this wonderful event. As Yulia said, our two institutes of economy, they are so friendly and interact so well over recent times, so we hope that our fruitful collaboration will continue. Well, colleagues, did we manage to start the presentation? Yeah, good, and I just wanted to talk today about certain reflection on some theory of money and the transformation, what kind of transformation is happening in this sense, and what is happening, how closely corresponds to reality. This question was posed today, the matching between the theory and the reality. And so the question that I asked myself, the theory of money, the money theory, what questions should it answer? There's masses of theories of money, and of course, in reality, they are, well, I'll tell you that they've been established in previous periods, as it were. The largest theory that we mentioned, it's a monetarism, probably. And I will talk about the contemporary approaches too, a bit more modern, and I'm not going to be listing the theories here, but I'm going to be telling you what kind of issues that it answers. So not all the theories answer all these questions. Some theories answer some questions, some others answer others. And so how did money come about? And so where did the money come from? So one group of theories says that that is an evolutionary product to a certain extent. So there's various formats of various goods that when the market was developing and economic agents are working, and then it's been selected, and then some of which is the most in demand, that those goods become money, those most in demand. So this is the public contract. This is another position, Aristotelian. Then the money is the product of activity of the state, and then it comes to us straight away. Though this is the principal important. The evolutionary theories and the theories dealing with the money. That money came about as a product of activities of the state. And then the next set of questions, this is the essence of the money. So what is money? And now this is not an idle question now, because there is a lot of formats of the money. So there's a standard money, and of course is that could be bank deposits, and it could be currency. There could be actual physical money, so less liquid. There could be something less liquid, and then something that can be money. So there's what is liquidity, and that Keynes introduced that. So there's this premium for liquidity, and of course here that plays quite a serious role, important role in determining the essence of the money. So who creates money? The function of the money. We know the function of the money, of course, but the point is here is that every school would have a certain function as a lead. So the country is the function of the money, is its eternal. Another one is the measure of value, and then now it is considered that it's the function of the method of payment. But the discussion is quite broad here, because there is no there is no unanimity in the views here. And then is it endogenous or exogenous? So that is how does the money come into an economic system. And another interesting aspect here that I always draw attention to in theories, for example, with institutional direction here, then there's quite a lot of attention is paid to a certain money as a societal category, social category, and then there would be trust. Trust is a category very important that I put here in terms of money and using money. And the third group of question is the actual money as a whole in macroeconomic models. What kind of impact the money has
денежное обращение и, конечно же, практические вопросы, связанные с экономической политикой. То, что относится непосредственно к деньгам, понятно, это вопросы денежно-кредитной политики. Значит, ну вот если говорить о неком консенсусе, который сформировался к, скажем так, ну, если не к современности, то к периоду, скажем, лет 10 назад, я имею в виду даже чуть больше, это к периоду глобального экономического и финансового кризиса, к 2008-2009 году. Ну, скорее преобладала эволюционная теория денег, но она, собственно, и продолжает преобладать, эволюционная теория происхождения денег. И, ну, скажем так, в большинстве моделей деньги все-таки экзогенно заданы. Важный тезис с точки зрения возможности влияния денег на процессы, происходящие в реальном секторе экономики, это нейтральность, но здесь, в общем, как продукт такого кейнсианско-неоклассического синтеза, нейтральность признается в долгосрочном периоде, а в краткосрочном периоде вот воздействие может быть, и для этого как раз было огромное количество литературы, которые отнесли к разряду вот то, что называется каналы трансмиссионного механизма денежно-кредитной политики. Как денежно-кредитная политика может влиять на экономику, и из этого сделали такое эклектичное собрание вот разных теорий. Там и процентный канал, там и канал валютного курса, канал банковского кредитования, вот такая своеобразная эклектика того, как может это все в краткосрочном плане воздействовать. Ну и если говорить о вопросах экономической политики, то здесь тоже своеобразный консенсус образовался, что для стран достаточно развитых, которые могут себе это позволить, было, собственно говоря, такое создано теоретическое обоснование режима инфляционного таргетирования в денежно-кредитной политике, а таким обоснованием, по сути дела, является правило Тейлора. Ну, во-первых, важно, что само по себе правило, потому что это тоже была длительная дискуссия, правила против свободы действия, да, rules versus discretionary, а в экономической политике и вот в денежно-кредитной политике оно вылилось таким образом. Кстати, позволю себе еще одно замечание, и потом тоже я об этом скажу, это важная проблема. Дело в том, что...
The point is that Taylor's rule, that is not the first rule that came about in the monetary policies, because there was a Bateman rule, and that was directly connected to monetarism, which is the latest probably developed sphere because that rule substantiated monetary targeting, and in monetary targeting you can clearly understand there was the theory of money at the basis of it there. And what's important here, the inflation targeting here, the money is not there in the rule. In the rule of Taylor, there is no money. There is interest rates, and there is a change of real income, and the money disappears. And what's it to do with? And then the next thesis here: what are the challenges that the money theory faces, and the new system of macroeconomic modeling that has been talked about, that Professor Orlando was talking about right now, and that is based on the synthesis of new Keynesians and new classicists. So this is the DSG model, this is the model, the general equilibrium model, and in these models, the money is not present practically as it may be present, yes, but it's just ad hoc there. And sometimes people say, oh, it's strange that the model has no money. Then there's a function of usability, usefulness, and utility. And then there's this point that I was talking about, that I will be talking about, how to react to that. And then there is, again, it is obvious that in current conditions, and that is not the latest tendency, that has been about for a number of years, and then the money and credits and financial markets are interconnected more and more closely. And first, of course, the money and the credit system and the financial markets, they are developed in financial markets in most recent times, so they impact each other quite considerably. And then broadening this, when there is a part of the financial market that has certain liquidity, then it becomes a part of the category of money. And of course, serious changes in economics policy are happening, and up until recently, they have not received any theoretical substantiation. And that is changes in monetary policies, like in the global financial crisis, and what was happening in the 20s, non-traditional credit policies. This is the broader here, the terminology. So this is the numerical kind of softening here. So there are some other measures there, and then here you can, this is not to do with the monetary sphere directly, but that impacts as well. This is the growth of public spending. That was quite a lot in 2008, 2009, and it was explosive character in 2020 when there was reaction, which was to do with COVID-19. And the next, that was the challenge from the economics policy. So that is, I don't know how you perceive it, whether it's from behind or from the side or whatever. But you know, these are the assets. I'm telling, I call them assets. So partially, at least partially, they carry out a function of the money, like cryptocurrency, for example. And that is called cryptocurrency, so-called on the one hand, and then it's a stable coin, which is so there are private emitters, and then there is with cryptocurrencies. This is decentralization, of course. I'm so sorry. You just got carried away a little bit there. Yeah. But that is what what you've heard. What you can read it here. But I'm gonna move on, and to start with, now what the creation of the money. Where did money come from? The conception of the money, inception of money. So there's three key approaches here, depending on who creates the money, and we understand that the state makes money, but we are talking about the role of the banks in creation of the money here. So now this is the return, this is the reverse now. Banks, they are very similar to non-banks image. They redistribute resources. They don't actually create money. They redistribute resources in the economy, and of course, there was the partial reservation there. So there was the concept of monetary multiplier, and part of the theory. So the money is created not by the separate banks, by the banking system as a whole. And if you come to the first third of the 20th century, there was the theory there when particular banks were viewed as sources in creating the money, and so in some theorists they come back to this. So this is the last one here, but chronologically it's the first one, which stresses the role of banks in the creation of the money, and then the theory, which now is probably the most prevalent now. The 90% of cases you will see the modern monetary theory, theory of money in Russian is more like that. And of course, you probably there was an avalanche of criticism, and of course there was quite a lot of response to this criticism. And what are the advantages? There are certain attempts to respond to certain contemporary challenges that exist in monetary and credit spheres currently, and well, how much you can actually everybody may make their own conclusions. And of course, there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of quite a good observation there. There's quite a lot of critique, and you can see here, and I'll tell you straight away that it is quite closely connected to post-Keynesian. But the current theory of money and post-Keynesian, they cannot be opposed as well, but there is a number of theories. So the credit theory, the sovereign currency, and the concept of functional finances, and the credit theory of money. Essentially, it leads us to endogenous theory of money, that post-Keynesian, that is taken from post-Keynesians, and the concept that where the money create deposits when they give out credits. So the limiting factor here is not the interest rate, not like in classical, but the demand for borrowing from those who can pay. So the bank's capital is playing a more and more active role here, and the ways of regulating this. So monetary sovereignty. If the country can afford the currency that is not can be used, and we know very well that is not like that in many countries. For example, we know Russia, where our currency actively used in some spheres is foreign currency is used, and this monetary sovereignty, that is when the state can actually have no financial limitations, but there is a hidden hindrance here. Then you can increase the budget deficit here, but there are limitations. There are limitations in that model. Of course, this is the real productive capacities they are limiting, and then inflation. But when they're fighting inflation, the politicians, they change the role. So this is monetary credit policies. But if we look, that goes with the budget and the tax policies. So the traditional. So why raise taxes? Why, if the deficit is not important, you have to raise taxes to fight inflation. That's why you need it. So essentially, here there is no. With classic theories, there is no disconnect here. It's just a stress is put elsewhere, and emphasis is elsewhere, and the actual offers as a suggestion. So I must not forget what I'm talking about here. Right here, this is not surprising. The practice demonstrates that in the use of non-traditional measures of monetary credit policies, we see the growth of degree of discretion, but the modern monetary theory comes back to the policies based on the rule-based policies, but the budget deficit is not viewed as negative, but the key components is a guaranteed employment and targeting of interest rate for those economies who can afford monetary sovereignty. And again, since the monetary policies do not play an active role here, such an active role, so it's better to probably keep the zero credit rate, zero interest rate. So the discussions are very lively now, and how much does this theory answer to all the existing problems? And probably doesn't give answers, and maybe even the new challenges, the challenges of the global economy, the inflation, and maybe it puts all the issues actually on the question, under the microscope. And another very interesting sphere here that I managed to find, and of course that is much less heard of, much less widespread then, and it's much narrower. This is a new monetarism, so-called. What is that? And what is the key connection to the old monetarism? And then, on the other hand, what is novel here? What is new? Neo. So this is a macroeconomic basis for the money. So the micro and the macro is playing more and more role, bigger and bigger role now. And the thesis that I was talking about in the beginning, that in the contemporary models, what is lacking is the financial intermediaries, banking sector. And so now they're trying to fill up this gap, fill in this gap, and then. Old monetarism, if you come back to that, and then the critique here is the criticism of the theory of financial mediations here. They say that the banks, they play important, socially important, they transform non-liquid assets into liquid burden. And so this is the economics of payments, and we can talk about quite a lot on that. And the classic monetarism here, that the money is neutral but not super neutral, and in this sense there is no consensus. They don't leave the mainstream here, and they come back to the Friedman's rule, talking about that there is a certain serious limitation in the contemporary conditions. So what are the real changes in economic policy that reflect what is happening, in my view, happening in the theory of money? So regulating of offer of money is quite broadly, it is written that money multiplication, and it's a concept doesn't work very well. And the money, of course, the banking system is created by the money, but not according to the money multiplication model. And it is not by accident that on national level we come to macro-producing policies, which is the basis for the sufficiency of capital, and then sending to regulating of the banking capital when regulating money turnover. What is the program of quantitative softening here? This is coming back. So when the interest rates stop working as a mechanism, as a transmission mechanism, this is what we were talking about in the beginning on mainstream before 2008, 2009. And what we see, all of us, this is the interconnection of the policies and violation of not of the basic principle when they have to be independent from one another, these policies. So a couple of words I want to say on international dimension here, which here there are certain changes happening here. And if we talk about the function of the global money, world money, that Marx was talking about, that was discussed in the 19th century too, and within that monetary system, the world money, that we were talking about gold. And now logically, we could say dollar, the US dollar, but it's not like that. And so I'm talking about here that the leading role of the dollar, of the US dollar, is the function of the world money split between different currencies, and we come to the situation where many authors have described where there's competition of currencies. There's competition. This is at the international level, the competition of currencies, and there is separation into different approaches, different currencies, and different. So there is this classical Marx approach. If the economic agents, if there is demand for currency, that will be the leading currency then. And if there is approach on economic policy, and I want to give you that is China, with its policy of internalization of yuan, thus particular measures are happening to promote yuan. Positions of their currency in the world, and geopolitical approach, which of course many authors consider not less important than market approach. The dollar got its leading position not only based on the market, but also the use of various measures in terms of external policies here. Bretton Woods Conference, for example, Butorina showed that the US used the was promoting the dollar using political mechanism, and then of course the demand and supply has changed. What in terms of demand? What demand? There is more and more of demand in terms of from the financial markets that I was talking about, drivers of national economies, and of course offer the supply here. This is the offer of currency and factual of creating the money by the banking system, made out of air within the international activities of the banks. When the dollar credits in loans, dollar loans can be given without substantiation. They can be secured. So there's this banking regulations only limit the loaning at the international level, giving credits at the national level. So if we come back here, how the monetary system will be developing in terms of the future of cryptocurrencies, for crypto assets that I was talking about in the very beginning, there is a number of scenarios here. The Carstens, for example, this Bank of International Settlement. So the system of decentralization of finance, and I'm so sorry, Carstens. That is the system based on cryptocurrencies where there are no large intermediaries here. The system is decentralized, and Bitcoin actually gives us this kind of system. And then the other system, which also is based on crypto, that is stable coined, and that puts at the center centralization. And they emit these stable coins, but the system is centralized and monopolized. And of course, the answer that central banks are looking for response to change, these are digital currencies of central banks, and like multi-CBDC, so multi-digital currencies for international settlements, international accounting. And Carstens, he leans towards the third option, but there's a fourth one, I think, in the spirit of Harriet. And when various systems, they compete, and of course, in the states, monetary states, they limit the first two very much, of course. And we know that cryptocurrencies, if they're not prohibited, they are very much limited. And stablecoin, de facto, they torpedoed how much Libra project, how much it was discussed, and essentially it has never been started. And what can be the conclusion? So the full-fledged theory of money that would describe the realities of current economy, we still don't have that. Although the attempts have been made, and you can't really say that they can fully satisfy us, or they give us some non-contradictory result. And what else can we mention here? There's certain development towards the endogenous money, and so how to use this approach to how to use it with the digital currencies, and the literature that is the source, is how they been created. So this is quite weak so far. It's not been involved much, incorporated into money theory. And the tendencies in the global economy that we can see currently, we haven't answered the old challenges, and we got new ones. So the inflation's back. We now we were leaving the period when the globalization actually was stopping the inflation. This is the reverse non-traditional policies. This is the raising of the interest rates and fragmentation of the world financial system, which is quite possible due to all the issues that started happening in 2020, and many economists are writing about that. And thank you very much. Thank you.